Shalom, when the self souls by getting no praise to Yahweh, Bashem, Yahushua, Bashem, Kodash. Double honor to the post great most and honor to you brothers doing the work, the most in truth and in sincerity. Yahweh's real name of whom the world English calls God, Jehovah Yahweh. His real name is Yahweh. His own street name is Yahweh Shai, and when we pray Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba meaning in, meaning down, and Shai meaning names, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai. Real quick, just wanted to touch on this article that I came across on Euronews. This is EU Commission probes 4 adult entertainment sites amid concerns for minors. Now you may be like, oh, you know, it is what it is, etc., etc. But this is, what he does all the time, right? He does a whole thing to do with, Trojan horses, right? So let's bring up Trojan horses. The term Trojan horse has two main meanings: a historical event in Greek mythology and a type of computer malware, right? It says in mythology it refers to a large wooden horse used by the Greeks to infiltrate the city of Troy and end the Trojan War. Says the Greeks, after a 10-year siege, devising a cunning plan to capture Troy, they constructed a giant hollow wooden horse, supposedly as an offering to Athena, and hid Greek soldiers inside. The Trojans, fooled by the ruse, right, and that's it, right. I.e., with all of these different plans that he has, right, he fools the people, right. But this is what the scripture says in reference to us. This is 2 Corinthians 2:11. It says, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices, right? His evil plans, the things that he's getting ready to do on the world stage. Right, and this is just one example of one of the plans that he does have. Okay, so it says, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, we're not ignorant of his devices, right? Grab this as well, right? This is 1 Thessalonians 5 and 4. It says, but ye brethren, right, are not in darkness, that the day should overtake you as a thief, right? Referring to when the Lord, the day the Lord comes back, right? It says, ye are all children of the light and the children of the day. We are not of the night nor of darkness. Therefore let us not sleep as do others, but let us watch and be sober. Okay, and that's once again that is the the difference between us and them, right? The Lord has opened our eyes to, be able to see these things, and has our spidey senses tingling, right? Whereas others, they're fooled by, the ruse, right, of the devil, right, of Esau, right? So it says the Trojans, fooled by the ruse, brought the horse inside the city wall, celebrating the supposed victory. Right, at night, the hidden soldiers emerged and opened the gates for the rest of the Greek army, leading to the sack of Troy. Okay, and that's basically what he is doing, right? He's setting up all of these different plans and agendas. We're going to read that in a second, right? But he's using other means for it. So he's using means that people would would actually come out and defend, right? He does this all the time, right? So this is something, because right now we live in a world where from as soon as someone's got access to the internet, or whatever age that may be, some children get access very, very young, some a little bit later, right? But the thing is, from then they just got access to, things that are frying their brain, right? So you hear this, you're like, oh, it sounds like good, right? But as soon as we see this, right, we're seeing, right, these different websites. Sorry, this design as an example, right? Age ID provides age restricted websites a simple and secure solution, right? And we all know what this leads to, right? We're very much aware of what this leads to, right? It's the master plan. It's what Esau is actively working on, right? Now this is originally talking about Antiochus, Antiochus, however you prefer to pronounce it, right? But we can apply it today. So it's Daniel 8:25. So through his policy, right, also he causes craft to prosper in his hand, right? So this is an example of his policy, right? Writing laws saying, oh yeah, we need to to save the children, protect the children. And once again, it's something that you agree with, right? But then it's like, what is the latter end of this thing, right? What is the full story? Because he's not telling you the full story. He's always coming, with them smooth words first and foremost, right? But then he's got swords in his hand. This is Psalms 55 and 21. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. And that's just the nature of this man, right? He is, he is he's a liar. I was trying to think of other words, but that's the best way of describing it. He's a liar, right? And this is when he speaks, right? You were speaking about this at the camp, right? He does a lot of lying by omission, right? He's not telling the people what the true end goal for a lot of these things that he's doing is, right? But this is the thing. It's like he doesn't respect those individuals, right? He doesn't respect the majority of the people on the earth, right? Primarily Jake, right? He hates Jake, right? Scriptures talk about in Ezekiel the 35th chapter, right, the 5th verse, about how Esau has had a perpetual hatred for us, right? So he's thinking, why do I even need to tell you what I'm going to do to you? I'm just going to do it, right? What does the scripture say? Because it was in the power of his hand, right? And then also what the earth is given into the hand of the wicked, right? So right now, the Lord is the one that has put Esau up in this stead, right, to be able to make all of these rules and to have people conform, as he wishes. Isaiah 10 and 1, right, says, woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees and that right grievousness which they have prescribed, right? And that's what Esau does. He uses laws as legislations to basically do whatever the hell he wants, right? And as things stand, no one can tell him otherwise, right? But we're here to say, right, as the mouthpieces of the Lord, that Esau's time is coming to an end, right? And the Lord is going to stop you right in your tracks, right? It says back in Psalms 58 and 3, it says, the wicked are estranged from the womb, they go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies, right? So this man's a liar, right? See if these are direct precepts. So it says Psalms 144 and 8 says, whose mouth speaketh vanity, and their right hand is a right hand of falsehood. Okay. And then Psalms 36 and 3 says, the word of his mouth, iniquity and deceit. He hath left off to be wise and to do good. He deviseth mischief upon his bed. He setteth himself in a way that is not good. He abhorreth not evil. Right. So he's always just making plans, to do stuff, right? And he uses these laws, he frames these laws, right, in such a way that benefits him, right? And then as we're about to read, when the morning is light, they practice it, right? So Micah 2 and 1 says, woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand. Right? It's because the Lord has given him the power for the time being, right? But we're here to say, hey, your time's up. Right. So back in the article, it says Euronews says protection of minors has been singled out as one of the priorities under the Digital Services Act. Right. Goes into how they started investigating those websites. Says these include risks that age verification measures deployed by the sites are ineffective. Like, so you imagine the whole, are you over 18? Yes. And then that's it. Okay, they're basically saying that's ineffective, right? So continuing on, I think it's better if I just jump over to the to the chat overview, right? It says the EU's Digital Services Act is a landmark regulation aimed at creating safer and more transparent online environment, right? In fact, we didn't finish Daniel 8:25. We'll go back to it, Lord's will, right? But it says it imposes new responsibilities on digital service providers to manage illegal content, protect user rights, and ensure accountability in the digital space, right? It says became effective in 2024. Right, it says its primary goals are to combat illegal and harmful online content, right? And then we can jump over as well to here. It's Amos 8:11, right? So it says, "Behold, the days come, saith the Lord power, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but of hearing the words of the Most High." Right. So that this is certainly one of the things that we go and start seeing more and more. Right, where by threat of massive fines, which we're going to see the kind of numbers that we're dealing with, right? These major companies are going to use that as a way to say, well, yeah, we didn't want to get caught up with a fine. So we're taking, there's, your content off of our platforms, right? It says the regulation's primary goals, I'll say it was protect fundamental rights, foster a fair and open digital market, right? It says to comply. It says establish mechanisms to swiftly identify and remove illegal content, right? So imagine you will then have, a company that sort of like, what was it, YouTube's content ID, right? You're going to start seeing that, those kinds of things more and more, and the AI is definitely, helping with that, right? It says transparency and reporting, blah, 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 use empowerment. It says how companies are responding, enforcement and policies, right? Fines of up to 6% of global annual turnover, which if you're a massive company, VLOP, right, very large, very large online platform, right, that's going to be a lot of money potentially, okay? And et cetera, et cetera. So, and then I ask, so on the case of age-restricted websites, what are companies required to do and how are they implementing such changes? And 2, is there a risk that sites might start requiring identity verification in order to use them? Because that was ultimately the point that I was trying to get out of it, right? Which, sometimes you've got to dig with these tools, right? But, it's still significantly faster than it, it used to be, right? So there's a requirement for age-restricted websites, right? It says implement effective age verifications, right? So simple declarations are deemed insufficient. Platforms are expected to adopt robust age verification mechanism, right? Conduct risk assessment, regular evaluation to identify blah, blah, right? So it says implementations by companies, right? It says some platforms are exploring advanced age verification techniques such as AI-driven facial age estimates and third-party verification services. So you see how this is all once again tying into this MOTB, this idea as well of you need authorization to access services. Okay, and by way of pushing this whole particular bill, what you're having companies start basically implementing the means to do this for one segment of society. But then guess what that means? There's a company that is able to basically plug and play for other segments of society, right? Don't know how it is in the States, but for instance over here in the UK, if you're opening say a new credit account or whatever, right, there are services, basically the same 3 or 4 online services that are used to do the identity verification side of things, right? Whether it be photos or comparing it to your to your identity documents and all of those types of things, right? So it says device level verification, right? So companies like ALO advocate for age verification at the device level, right? So you're gonna have this once again, what are we talking here, okay? And always remember that your phone, right, has a NFC reader, right? It says suggesting that verifying a user's age on their device can be more effective, right? And it says the European Commission is developing an age verification app that allows users to prove their age without disclosing personal information, right? So the EU's already building, something of their own, okay? So it says the forthcoming EU age verification app is designed to confirm a user's age without revealing their identity. But guess what, right? They maybe the website won't know, right? But the way to connect, right, and to verify, right, the the EU will know, right? So once again, all of these EIDs, national EIDs, right? This whole world is getting more and more digital, more and more connected in preparation for what? For that MOTB, right? So this is Daniel 8:25. Let's finish this off. It says, and through his policy, he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand. Once again, this is referring to Antiochus Epiphanes, right? But you can apply it today, right? It says, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. Mind Esau, through his craft, his laws and stuff like that, and his policies, he causes the destruction of many, right? It says he also shall stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. Okay, so this is a quick, just a quick overview, right? And there'll be more of these types of laws and stuff coming in that are on the surface aimed at other things, but then when you look deeper into it, right, you can see how it just will tie in very nicely, right, into the MOTB system. All right, so those laws that was edifying. Till next time we say shalom.